Hey friends, and welcome back to Trying To with Leah. If you're new here, my channel is really just about trying to heal, trying to grow, trying to become better people, and trying to become our own safe place. And if any of that sounds like something you need to, then I'm really glad you're here. So, full transparency, I have filmed multiple videos this week and scrapped almost all of them because I just could not figure out what felt right. I kept turning the camera on and talking for a while and then watching it back and editing and thinking, this does not feel like me. I just don't feel like myself. And I think part of that is because last week I got some pretty heavy news about somebody that I care about really deeply. And since then, I've kind of felt disconnected from myself. Kind of like my spark has dimmed a little bit. It's definitely not gone, but it's just quieter this week. And I think that's part of why I came out to the lake to film this today, because being near water or out in nature is one of the few places that I can feel like I can just come home to myself. And I noticed myself trying really hard to compensate for everything that I was feeling, trying to sound more upbeat and more put together and more normal. But I don't think pretending to always be okay is authenticity. Sometimes authenticity is just saying, hey, I'm not really myself right now. And weirdly enough, I think those moments tell us a lot about who we actually are. So today I wanted to talk about something that I think most of us are constantly trying to figure out. And that is, who are we really? Because I don't think discovering yourself is some magical final destination where suddenly everything just clicks and you become this like fully realized person. I think it changes constantly. You can wake up feeling completely certain about yourself, and then with one conversation, one heartbreak, one realization, or one trigger, suddenly you don't feel like you know yourself at all anymore. And maybe that's normal. I think we are evolving all the time. There are versions of me from 5 years ago that literally do not exist anymore. There are reactions that I used to have that I don't have now, and there are also wounds that I thought I healed that apparently were just hiding quietly in the corner waiting for a dramatic re-entry, which is rude, by the way. But healing really humbles you sometimes. You'll be sitting there thinking, wow, look at me. I am emotionally mature and thriving. And then one tiny little thing happens and suddenly you're reacting exactly like a previous version of yourself. And you're like, oh, interesting. Apparently we're still working on that. But I think those moments matter because they reveal things to us. Not just about our pain, but also about our patterns, about our fears, and about what we still need. And if you pay attention, your consistent patterns start revealing who you are underneath all of that noise. So, for example, one thing that I know very confidently about myself is that I am an extremely compassionate person. Whenever somebody tells me something painful or really heavy that they're going through, my brain immediately starts searching for moments in my own life that can relate to what they're telling me. And that's not because I want to redirect the attention back to myself or because I'm self-absorbed, but that's because that's genuinely how I connect with people. It's my way of saying, I understand this feeling and you're not alone in it. But something I've realized over time is that some people can completely misunderstand your intentions, no matter how good they are. There have been moments where I walked away from conversations realizing that somebody probably thought I was just making things about me when internally I was just trying to show them empathy. And like Shinedown says, I think that's just kind of a symptom of being human. You can know your heart completely and someone else can still interpret you entirely differently. And if you're not careful, you start letting other people define you for you. You hear an opinion enough times and suddenly you start questioning yourself. Maybe you are too sensitive. Maybe you're too emotional or too awkward or too much. And eventually you start shaping yourself around what feels acceptable to other people instead of what feels like it's true to you. And I think sometimes we do that without even realizing it. Especially if you grew up trying to keep the peace or trying just not to disappoint people. You get so used to adapting yourself that eventually you don't even know what's genuinely you anymore. And that's why I think that spending time alone is so important. Because when you remove everybody else's opinions and their expectations, you find out who you are naturally. What excites you? What drains you? What kind of people make you feel safe? And what parts of yourself make you proud? What keeps hurting you over and over again? And those answers matter. And I think that getting to know yourself really requires true honesty. And that's not cruel honesty. It's just real honesty. Like, of course, I can sit here and tell you that I'm compassionate and emotionally aware, but I also overthink constantly. I can be incredibly hard on myself, and apparently I am physically incapable of existing without accidentally injuring myself. Which brings me to this week's injury report. Because yes, it happened again. This week I gave myself a fat lip with a dumbbell. And luckily I am healed enough that I can actually talk about it without going like this. But it was not during some kind of intense gym moment or anything like that. I was at home. I was literally doing my glute bridges with 2 10-pound dumbbells on my stomach like I always do. And somehow one of those rolled directly over my chest and smacked me in the mouth. And I bit very deeply into my lip. And for a moment, I just laid there staring at the ceiling, just bleeding and wondering how I make it through daily life alive. And honestly, at this point, when things like this happen to me, I'm not even surprised anymore. Because I just go, yeah, that tracks. But I think there's something important about accepting certain parts of yourself too. Because yes, there are tons of things that we can change. But there are also things about us that are just part of our wiring. I will probably always be slightly chaotic. I will be a klutz. I will probably always laugh at somewhat inappropriate moments because my brain processes discomfort through humor a lot of the time. And I'm going to probably always trip over air, just absolutely nothing. And accepting yourself matters because self-awareness isn't supposed to become self-hatred. The goal isn't to analyze yourself so deeply that you become ashamed of every single flaw that you have. The goal is to understand yourself enough that you can work with yourself instead of against yourself. So now when I do my bridges, I hold on to the dumbbells. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is growth. And honestly, I think that's what transformation usually looks like. It's not some kind of overnight reinvention. It's just small moments of awareness that are repeated consistently. It's catching yourself. It's pausing. It's choosing differently when you can. I've talked before about how doing YouTube has brought up a lot of imposter syndrome for me. And that still happens. There's still moments where I film something and then I watch it back and I wonder to myself, why doesn't this feel authentic? It felt authentic when I was filming it. But lately, I've stopped trying so hard to feel or look authentic and just kind of exist on here instead. Which means sometimes I'm going to sound polished and thoughtful because of the professional side of myself, and other times I'm going to be goofy and rambling. because both of those versions are still me. None of us are just one thing. We are layered. There's parts of you that are serious and parts that are playful. There's parts that are healing and parts that are just exhausted and parts that are hopeful. And all of those things can exist at the exact same time. I think that sometimes we put pressure on ourselves to figure ourselves out as if there's supposed to be some kind of final answer. But what if becoming yourself is actually a lifelong process? Because realistically, if you became that perfect final version of yourself tomorrow, then what? I think being human is supposed to involve movement and evolution and growth. We're supposed to shift and grow and reevaluate ourselves over and over again. And yes, that does mean making mistakes a lot. But usually there's information hidden in those moments too. Sometimes your anger reveals a boundary that needed protecting. Sometimes your exhaustion reveals burnout that you're ignoring. And sometimes your overreacting reveals unhealed wounds. There's usually something underneath the reaction. And that's why I love the symbolism of the lotus flower so much. I'm actually going to get that as a tattoo eventually. Mom, don't kill me. Yes, I will get another one eventually. Not today. But the fact that something beautiful like that can grow out of the mud. Not pretending that the mud never existed, but actually becoming something really beautiful while carrying the lessons that you learned in the muck. And I think that's what most of us are just trying to do. We're trying to become softer without becoming weak, kinder without abandoning ourselves, stronger without losing our tenderness. And that takes time. So this week, I really want you to sit with this question. Who are you underneath all of the noise? Not who people told you that you were, and not who you became to survive, but just you. What consistently shows up in the way that you love people? What parts of yourself make you proud? What parts of yourself still need care? Because I really do think that self-awareness creates the space that you need for healing. And the more honestly that you know yourself, the easier it is to build a life that actually feels aligned with who you're becoming. Not perfection, just real. So thank you guys for being here. Seriously. The fact that you spend part of your week with me here means more than you know. Let me know in the comments if you ever struggle with figuring out who you are, or if you've learned something important about yourself recently, because I would love to hear it. Let's keep growing together. And as always, life gets so much better when you try. I will see you guys next week.